As the days turned into weeks, Silverbrook returned to its usual peaceful rhythm. The illness that had threatened the village was now under control, and the people were slowly getting back to their routines. But the strained relationships between the men in the village were becoming harder to ignore. Roland, frustrated by Anwen's rejection of his help, began to feel anger bubble up inside him. He wanted to win her over, to prove that he could give her everything she needed. But no matter what he did, she remained distant, focused on her work and her independence. Gareth, on the other hand, was starting to feel more and more at ease around Era. They spent hours working together in the blacksmith shop, talking about their dreams and their hopes for the future. Gareth had always admired Era from afar, but now he felt a deeper connection to her. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned pink and orange, Era and Gareth sat outside the blacksmith shop, taking a break from their work. The air was warm, and the sounds of the village were soft in the distance. Gareth looked at Era, his heart racing, and finally decided to speak. "Era," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I've been meaning to tell you something. I don't have wealth or fancy gifts like Roland, but I have something else, my heart. I care for you, Era, more than I can put into words." Era was silent for a moment, her blue eyes searching his face. She had never expected Gareth to confess his feelings so openly, and she was unsure how to respond. But as she looked into his honest, kind eyes, she felt a warmth in her chest. I care for you too, Gareth," she said slowly. "You're one of the kindest people I know, and I admire you more than you know." Gareth's heart swelled with happiness. It wasn't a declaration of love, but it was something more, an understanding, a recognition of the bond that had formed between them. They both knew that their friendship had deepened into something more, but neither of them was in a hurry. They wanted to take their time, to let their feelings grow naturally. Meanwhile, Anwen continued her work, offering healing to anyone in need. She had noticed the closeness between her sister and Gareth, and though she said nothing, she felt a sense of peace. She was content with her life, and she knew that love would come in its own time, if it was meant to be. But Roland was still watching, and he wasn't ready to give up yet. He knew that the rivalry between him and Gareth was only growing, and he was determined to win Anwen's heart, no matter what. As the summer days passed, the village of Silverbrook grew quieter. The market was busy once again, and the people were content. But for the sisters, the tension in the air was becoming harder to ignore. Both men had made their feelings clear, and now It was time for the sisters to make their choices. Roland, though rich and charming, had been unable to win Anwen's heart. She had made it clear that she valued her independence above all else, and that she wasn't interested in a life of luxury. Despite his wealth, Roland couldn't offer her what she truly wanted: a life of peace, simplicity, and respect for her work. Gareth, on the other hand, had won Eira's heart with his honesty and kindness. Though he wasn't as wealthy as Roland, Eira saw in him something far more valuable: a love built on trust, respect, and shared dreams. She knew that Gareth was the man she wanted to spend her life with. One evening, as the sun began to set and the village was quiet, Eira and Gareth sat together near the river. The sound of the water rushing past them was soothing, and the world seemed at peace. Gareth took Eira's hand in his heart beating faster. "Eira," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I don't have much, but I have my heart to give you. Will you be with me? Will you share your life with me?" Eira smiled, her blue eyes sparkling in the fading light. "Yes, Gareth. I've known for a long time that you're the one I want to be with." As they sat there, holding hands, the future seemed bright. They didn't need wealth or fancy gifts. They had each other, and that was all they needed. Anwen, too, found peace in her own way. She continued to help the village, working with the plants and the people. She was content with her life, and she knew that her path was her own to choose. Roland, though disappointed, finally understood that love couldn't be bought. He left Silverbrook, grateful for the lessons he had learned. The village of Silverbrook remained as peaceful as ever, and the sisters continued to live their lives with grace and kindness, admired by all, but never seeking attention. They had found their happiness in their own way, and that was enough. As the seasons shifted and the crisp air of autumn descended on Silverbrook, the village felt more peaceful than it had in months. The mystery of the illness had faded into the past, and the people were once again focused on their work, their families, and their lives. The marketplace bustled with energy, the once quiet streets now filled with lively chatter. But there was still a quiet undercurrent to the village, a peace that only the sisters, Eira and Anwen, seemed to carry with them. Eira had found happiness in Gareth's arms. Though he wasn't wealthy or filled with grand promises, there was something deeply reassuring about his presence. Gareth had always been a man of few words, but his actions spoke louder than anything he could say. He cared for her deeply, and she felt the same. They spent more time together, helping each other with tasks around the village and the blacksmith shop. Gareth, though still shy at times, was becoming more confident, knowing that he had earned her trust and affection. One evening, as they walked by the river, watching the golden hues of the sunset reflect on the water, Gareth turned to Era with a soft look in his eyes. The air was cool, and the peaceful sounds of the river seemed to match the quiet joy in his heart. "Era," he said, his voice gentle but filled with sincerity, "I don't have much to give you, but I promise to give you my heart, always. I don't need anything more than your love." Era smiled, her blue eyes meeting his, full of warmth and affection. "And you have it, Gareth. You've always had it. I've learned that true love doesn't come from wealth or grand gestures. It comes from kindness, respect, and the simple joys we share." Gareth smiled, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like he truly belonged. They continued walking hand in hand, enjoying the beauty of the evening and the certainty that their future was one they would share together. Meanwhile, Anwen had remained focused on her work. She had never sought attention, nor had she needed it. Her peaceful nature and quiet strength had made her a respected figure in Silverbrook, especially now that the village had come to appreciate her wisdom during the illness. She continued to care for the sick, gather herbs, and help those in need, never asking for anything in return. Though she had felt Roland's gaze upon her for many weeks, Anwen had remained true to herself. Roland, despite his wealth, had failed to win her heart. His persistence, though flattering at first, had become tiresome. He didn't understand that Anwen didn't need his riches or his gifts. What she valued most was her independence, her skills, and her role in the village. As the weeks passed, Roland began to understand. His lavish gifts and promises of a life filled with luxury could not sway Anwen. One day, he came to her door, his face filled with a mixture of disappointment and realization. "Anwen," he said softly, "I have brought you so many things, and I thought that would win your favor. But I see now that it was never about the gifts or the money. I was wrong." Anwen looked at him with a calm expression, her deep green eyes steady. "Roland," she said gently, "I appreciate your kindness, but my heart belongs to simplicity, not riches. I value my work, the people I help, and the peace I find in caring for others. I need nothing more than that." Roland nodded, understanding at last. He had learned something important during his time in Silverbrook. It wasn't wealth that made a person truly happy. It was the connections they built, the kindness they shared, and the life they lived. "I understand now," he said quietly. "I wish you all the best, Anwen." And with that, Roland left the village. he didn't leave bitter or angry. Instead, he felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons he had learned. The people of Silverbrook, particularly Anwen, had shown him what truly mattered. He'd come to Silverbrook seeking love, but in the end, he found respect for a life he hadn't understood before. As autumn turned to winter, the village of Silverbrook continued to flourish. Era and Gareth had become inseparable, their bond growing stronger every day. The villagers saw the way they worked together, helping each other and their neighbors with joy. It was clear to everyone that the two of them were meant to be. Anwen, content with her life and her work, continued to serve the village with the same dedication she always had. She had no need for a romantic partner, nor did she want one. She was happy with the life she had built, and that was enough. The village, once filled with whispers of competition and uncertainty, had settled into a peaceful harmony. Era and Gareth were happy together, and Anwen found fulfillment in the work she loved. The villagers respected and admired the sisters, not just for their beauty, but for their hearts, their wisdom, and their kindness. The story of the two beautiful sisters of Silverbrook became a tale passed down through generations. It was a story of love, not the kind that comes from riches or grand gestures, but the kind that comes from kindness, respect, and understanding. Era and Gareth, though their lives were simple, lived happily, raising children of their own, teaching them the values of hard work, love, and humility. Anwen, too, lived a long and peaceful life. She never sought the attention of men, but she found joy in her role as the village's healer. She was a figure of wisdom and strength, beloved by all who knew her. Though she never married, she had a family of her own in the form of the villagers, who looked up to her as a mentor, a friend, and a sister. And Roland, who had once sought to win the hearts of the sisters with his wealth, left Silverbrook with a newfound understanding of what truly mattered. Though his journey took him far from the village, he carried with him the lessons he had learned from the people of Silverbrook. In the end, he found his own path, one that was filled with genuine connections, built not on money, but on the kindness and respect he had come to value. Silverbrook remained the peaceful village it had always been, surrounded by hills and rivers, where the sisters lived out their days with grace and love, remembered for their beauty, but admired for their hearts. The story of the sisters and their quiet wisdom was a legacy that would live on forever, a reminder to all that true love and happiness come from the simplest and most sincere things in life.